Okay. Um, Hello everyone, and welcome back to SimplePlanes. I haven't been to SimplePlanes for ages, but I'm going to be showing some WWII German jets, both fictional and non-fictional, starting off with ones that you've already seen, such as this, which is the Arado Ar which was the first German bomber and long-range, well, reconnaissance plane, as it was also used for. But yes, you've already seen this. I've already shown it. Just showing it again here. Just a simple jet fighter, really. Doesn't have any weapons on here. But it's fun to fly in SimplePlanes, and yeah, you've already seen it. It's in a nice green camouflage. It does have a retracting landing gear, as you can see there, opening and closing. The cockpit view isn't much, as you can see. It's actually non-existent. You're sort of here in the cockpit, and then you're sort of seeing that silver band. So yeah, but then again, you've already seen this plane, so if you haven't, go and watch it. It's Early Jet Fighters. I think I named it something like that. But yeah, so it's just a simple jet, long-range reconnaissance / bomber. And this next aircraft is the Bachem Ba 349, I think it is, or Natter. And what this is, it was actually designed to take off from a vertical rail, and the way that you get this vertical rail up is that you use these VTOL controls at the side, and it will slowly raise up. So as you can see, it's slowly raising itself. But there is a slight cockpit view, but it's facing backwards, I believe. Yeah, it's facing backwards. And it was designed as an interceptor that would be able to easily take off and intercept enemy bomber formations with these rockets at the front. It would put a salvo of rockets or cannons, I believe it was rockets, in the nose, and it would fire these rockets into the enemy bomber formation, and from there it would obviously wreak havoc and then fly off, because the fuel amount, it only has a couple of simple rocket boosters, which are these things on the side. In the real thing, this is all. This is what I'm talking about. In the real thing, it has these rocket boosters, and what happens is it would take off, it would put out its salvo, and then it would, when it had ran out of fuel, the pilot would disengage these explosive bolts all around the edge of, well, just behind the cockpit, and from there, those explosive bolts would explode off, and then two parachutes would come out, one for the back of the aircraft, and then one for the front with the cockpit, and they would both parachute down to be reused again. So, but it could only fly for about 4 minutes, and I think what you're meant to do here is wait for about 10 seconds for the engine to boost up, then release group 1 and fly off. But yeah, I'm just not very good at flying it, so it does work. Let me just do this again here quick. Okay, so we're about here. There we go. So ready to launch. The camera sort of goes weird if you're not completely on the ground, as you can see, so I'm gonna just leave it like that. So ready, speeding up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then release. Sort of working. No, it doesn't particularly fly very well here. Oh, no. Not quite. It looks good, I'm just not very good at flying it. I'm sure there is somebody who's able to fly it, but this was actually a real thing. It was sort of used. I don't know if it got into operational combat, but I'm sure it may have done. But yeah, so that was the Natter, as it's known as, the BA 349 Natter. And now we have got the Heinkel He 163, or the Salamander. This is actually a different model to the one that I had previously shown. So this is a different model that I found, but it still looks very nice. The landing gear still coming. Still has the front nose-mounted would-be cannons. I think they're 20mm. I think 4 of them, and it's got a Junkers Jumo turbojet, Junkers Humor 004 turbojet, up above, and it was also designed as a short-range interceptor, which would zoom up, intercept enemy bomber formations, and then fly off again. So this thing, here's the cockpit view, and this is the thing that I like about it so much, is that it does have this very nice cockpit. As you can see, there is the control column. Let's dodge the bridge. There you go. But yeah, so as you can see, as I move left and right, pitching up and down, the control column does actually move. Yawing doesn't actually do anything there, but this is actually, apparently this thing moves. That is to show your thrust level. That thing, I'm not too sure, possibly supposed to be like the artificial horizon or something. But, so yeah, it's a very nice model. 105 has been written there on the nose of the aircraft. And yeah, so this is the other variation of the salamander that I was able to find. Let's try and fly through the bridge. It's fairly risky, flying through the bridge, especially because this thing wants to tip down, but no, easily done. Easily done. But yeah, so you've already seen the Natter. These things you've already seen. Well, sorry, not the Natter, the salamander. You've already seen it. But let's try and crash into the bridge this time. Yep. Oh, and it's actually collapsed. Very nice. But yeah, so there's the second incantation of the Natter. Sorry if you can hear a plane going past. I do have my window open because it's sort of becoming summer. But yeah, so there was the salamander. Second model. And just for old time's sakes, here's the other one that I showed. And it's actually the HE 162, not 163. I got those two slightly wrong. But yeah, so here's the other Heinkel that I showed. It doesn't quite want to take off. There you go. If I just put up the gears, it'll take off. But yeah, so here's the other Heinkel that I showed. It's a decent model. It's very nice. The wings are... It does look very nice, yeah. And it also does have a cockpit view, not as detailed, but still, it does actually show from the cockpit. Still has machine guns at the front in place of cannons. The other one had 4, this has 2, because I suppose they probably couldn't get any more on there without breaking the airframe or something. But all it... That's the problem with this aircraft, it doesn't particularly handle as well. And for some reason a bridge just collapsed from somewhere. But yeah. So there's the problem with this the problem with this cantation of it. But yeah, so this was just for old time's sake. This is just the one that I previously showed. And this is the ME-262. Which is one that I also previously showed, and it was the first ever operational jet fighter, and it's taken off all by itself. Because I still have... no, I don't still have mouse's joystick enabled. But yeah, that's very difficult to try to fly it with. But yeah, so this is the ME-262. It's a very nice model. It doesn't handle particularly well. It does want to pitch down a lot, as you can see. But yeah, it's a very nice model. It doesn't have any of the weapons on it, but it would have 4 30mm or 20mm in the nose as its main armament. But yeah, first operational jet fighter, which is very nice. It's a nice model. It doesn't particularly handle that well. As you can see, it's taken me a little while to pitch up and down. It does roll very well, and yaw as well. It does do both of those, but the pitch, not quite so well. But yeah, you've already seen the ME-262. It's a nice model. It's got the nice attention to detail of the crosses. They're slightly raised up off the wing. There they are. But yeah, so the ME-262 first operational jet fighter for Deutschland. If the war had continued just a few months longer, they may have been able to do something, but well, too little, too late, too few aircraft, really. But yeah, so the ME-262, do a barrel roll. And this odd contraption is the Horten Ho 229 flying wing, because that's literally what it is. It's a literal wing that just flies. But yeah, it was the first ever jet bomber, stealth bomber even, the jet stealth bomber, because I've previously shown this as well, but it was also powered by two Yokosumo turbojets, or it would have been, and it was the first ever flying wing. The Germans came up with a lot of first ever designs, such as the first ever operational jet fighter, first ever flying wing, plus the first ever stealth bomber, which is what this thing is, the first ever jet interceptor, first ever jet bomber, I've already said. But yeah, the thing about it is that this was actually supposed to be coated in a special paint, which meant that the British radar wouldn't be able to detect it flying over to drop its bombs on London or wherever. And obviously, it was never actually around production. I think they may have made like a couple of prototypes, but I don't actually think it ever flew. But flying wings do fly, but I doubt at that time they would have had much success without lots and lots of trials and tests and redesigns. But thing is, they coated this in some sort of weird concoction over the paint, and it was supposed to make it invisible to the British chain-home radar. And in 2008 or something, obviously the Americans decided to test out their theory, and in 2008 they built one, and they coated it in this special concoction, and they tested it against British 1940 spec chain-home radar, which is what was all of the big radio towers at the British coastline to France was to detect incoming, German Air Force units. And so they tested it, and it turned out that the British had 2.5 minutes to detect, scramble, and intercept this thing before it got over London and dropped its bombs, which was not enough for Spitfires to actually take off and go and intercept this thing. So it did work, sort of, as a stealth bomber, if they'd actually ever got around to using it. So there's a thing for the Germans. Go Germany. But yeah, as you can see, it's a very nice model. It is a literal flying wing, and it does look very odd, but yeah, these things would be 30mm guns at the front, these sticking out things, and yeah, powered by two Yokosumo 004 turbojets. And I have previously shown this, so we'll move on from the flying wing. And this is the last of the proper, actual, built and conceived jets that Germany made in World War II. And even though it's in Japanese, this is the KI-200, but it is very closely based on the Me-262, which is, or aka the Comet. So yes, this is basically the Japanese Comet, which is why I'm showing it, because even though it's in Japanese colours, it's basically the Comet. But as you can see, the handling in SimplePlanes on this model is not particularly good. It rolls very well, and the yaw is very good, but yeah, the pitch is basically non-existent. But yeah, this thing was also designed as a jet interceptor, or a rocket interceptor, and yeah, it didn't have a tailplane. It was sort of half sort of flying wing, you could say, because it still had the rudder here, which is something the Horten didn't have. But yeah, it mounted to 20 or 30mm, I sort of forget what it is, which are these things here which are firing. And in here you've got the nice cockpit view as we rat-a-tat-tat into the British and American bomber formations. But yeah, the Japanese obviously wanted to get themselves some jet aircraft, and of course Germany had already came up with many designs, so the Japanese said, could we borrow these? So the Germans said, yeah, sure, go for it. It's not like we're going to be using them anytime soon, at least not to win the war. Maybe you'll have more success. So the Japanese took them, modified them ever so slightly, gave them their own engines, their own... okay, we have some very... oh dear. But yes, the Japanese took them, mounted their own engines, their own weapons, and basically left the rest of it German spec. And so yeah, this is basically the Japanese Comet. Of course, the Japanese never got around to actually building any of these things, but they did have their own version of the Comet, the Me-262. Not too sure if they had any of their own, any other German jet designs, but yeah, so this is basically the Comet, but Japanese. And can we fly through the bridge? Yes, we can, even with the terrible handling. But yeah, so the Comet, it's a nice model, even if it doesn't fly very well. And I suppose that's the key thing, isn't it? But yeah, let's move on from the Comet, and the last of the actual jets that flew or were going to be close to flying at the end of the war, and move on to some other concoctions that either never flew or were just made up. So this is the first of the more odd designs. This is the Messerschmitt Me 600, or the Arthur Sachs AS, something or other. There you go, I have mouse's joystick enabled. But yeah, so this thing is basically like the US flying pancake, where it's just basically a round circular thing with a tailplane stuck on it. But oh dear, those things have been lost. I'm sure they weren't important. But yeah, so this is a very odd looking plane. It actually flies. As you can see, it takes off very smoothly. The landing gear doesn't retract, which I'm not surprised. Look how thin that wing is. There would be no way of actually getting it in there. But yeah, no weapons. Look at that very odd looking. There it is. There's the silhouette. Something just exploded. And yeah, it flies very well. It rolls actually very well. The pitch is definitely alright, and the yaw is alright as well, even if it is back to front. But yeah, pitch and everything is very good. Mouse's joystick, can I control it? Sort of. It's much easier to just control it with a WSAD. But yeah, so it's doesn't particularly fly very fast, as you can see here in SimplePlanes, but I'm pretty sure this was probably made up and never actually designed, developed, tested, or even put into prototype. But yeah, it's a very odd looking thing, isn't it? The flying pancake. I'm not too sure you'd be particularly scared seeing this thing roll up on the battlefield. But yeah, look at this roll rate. It's massively good. However, it does want to nose down very much. As you can see, I'm not touching anything, and it just sort of slowly dips towards the center of the Earth. But yeah, it's a nice made-up plane. It's certainly very odd looking. Can we land it on anything? Hopefully. It certainly wants to land us somewhere. Right, so coming in for a landing approach. Let's just cut the throttle. Oh. No, wrong way. Hold it. Oh. Yes. We've landed it. Ish. Yeah, it's fine, it's sliding a bit. But as you can see, there's a cockpit. I'm guessing these black things are meant to be the guns. But yeah, they would have to be countersunk up to well, they'd have to have an interrupter gear to fire through the propeller, but yeah, it's a very odd-looking plane. Yeah, the Me 600. Wouldn't be surprised if they never even bothered to look at the thing for this. It's just such an odd-looking flying pancake design. And this plane is the Heinkel He 179. It's another jet aircraft design. It does look very nice, doesn't it? It certainly looks very menacing. You wouldn't want to see this if you're in like a Spitfire or something, but it sort of follows the flying wing almost design, because there is no obvious tailplane or rudder, and these things I'm guessing would be the rudders, but they don't actually function. But yeah, you got your flaps, you got your ailerons, you got your elevators, and yeah, it does look very menacing and imposing. I wouldn't be surprised if the Germans were to have taken this thing on, because, well, look at it. You can strike fear into the hearts of the enemies of the Reich, can't you, with this? But yeah, the landing gear does retract up into the aircraft. It does have a massive amount of guns. I'm guessing there'd be 20 or 30 millimeter cannons, and you got 6 of them. Plus, you've got some rocket pods under there. So yeah, the only problem is that it doesn't particularly handle very well. Look at this roll rate. Yeah, that roll rate isn't particularly good, and it actually pitches all right. However, the roll is not very good at all. But it does have. If you can't, even if you can't really aim at things, at least you can. If they do wander into your sights, you can at least try and blast them to bits. But there isn't really a cockpit view, as you can see. But there are rocket pods, so let's just try using some of these. Got it. Oh dear. We took it down, but we went down in the process, which is not very good. Well, okay, so this is the Heinkel He 179, and yeah, you saw nothing. This is definitely the first time you've seen this aircraft. Believe me on this. So it's very menacing and imposing. There was definitely no incident with shooting rocket pods into a bridge that I then flew into the crash bridge because some things happened. But yeah, it does look very futuristic. It sort of looks slightly modern, doesn't it? With that wing design. Oh dear, that was almost a crash with the ground. But yeah, so let's shoot at the bridge for the first time. There was definitely no failed first attempt. Let's try and hit this. There you go, we hit it. The roll rate isn't as good. Definitely the roll rate. But yeah, it does have a massive amount of weapons. Looks very menacing and imposing, striking fear into the hearts of the enemies of the Reich. And you would not want to have seen that in the skies in a Spitfire. Definitely not. And this is our final aircraft that has simply been named WLM or MLW or something 53. It doesn't have a particular name. But yeah, it is a very, very nice looking design. I mean, that is a very thin fuselage right there. But yeah, it definitely looks very nice. The landing gear does retract in very smoothly and quickly, and it does have a large amount of firepower, 4 20 or 30 millimeter cannons at the front there, and two jet engines underneath. And it's actually very maneuverable. Look at this. It is, well, it's a very nice looking aircraft, and it does have a very nice cockpit view, as you can see here. You are sort of sitting directly in front of the engine intakes, but I'm sure that won't worry you at all. We can't take down the bridge. But yeah, I'm sure you'll be fine. You definitely won't get sucked into those engine intakes down there. But yeah, so you got a very nice plane design. It does blend in with the sky, as you can see. It has got blue underneath, and it can blend in with the ground, with the grey. But yeah, it does have a massive amount of firepower. It looks very sleek, and this is definitely something that you will want to be wary of in the skies as a Spitfire or P-51 Mustang pilot, because yeah, this thing definitely is very, very scary. But well, like the last 2 other designs that I've shown, which definitely did not happen, this one also didn't happen. It would be nice if it did, but as it happens, it didn't. But yeah, it has a decent amount of firepower. It would definitely have made a. It's very maneuverable, and it would certainly have made a very good fighter. So yeah, it's just they missed out on an opportunity because those goddamn British and their allies were stopping fun wherever they went, stopping the Germans from having their fun with jets and jet aircraft. Oh, come on, get down the ground. Come on. Yep, nailed it. Braking hard. Nailed it. Um, oh dear. That can buff out. That can buff out. Yeah, it's a simple. Yeah, it's a simple repair. Yeah, you can do that. You can have it done in half an hour. So that was the final of the jets that I had to show. Um, all of them obviously German, and all of them basically based around World War Two. And some of these designs you could definitely have seen the Luftwaffe taking on, such as this and the last one that I showed. Not too sure of the ME 600 though. But yeah, so that was German designs. I will thank you all for watching, and goodbye.